There are some forces in life we cannot see, yet we feel them deeply. The silence in a room before something important is said. The presence of someone who enters without fanfare. And suddenly, everything feels different. No words, no gesture. Just something shifts. And maybe, just maybe, that someone is you. We call it aura. Not in the mystical sense of glowing colors or spiritual theatrics, but as the quiet frequency you carry, the emotional climate you create, the energetic signature of your inner world projected outward, whether you're aware of it or not. Your aura is not your clothing, your smile, or the way you move your hands. It is your state of being, informed by your thoughts, your breath, your emotions, your choices. It is the sum of your presence in this moment, and some people, without trying, carry an aura that is undeniable. Not because they are trying to be seen, but because they are rooted in truth, in purpose, in something quiet but immovable. Modern science is beginning to understand this language. Our hearts emit electromagnetic fields measurable beyond our skin. Our brain waves entrain with those around us. Our nervous systems are in constant silent conversation, co-regulating emotion, intention, and perception. But long before neuroscience caught up, the Stoics knew this. They understood that a person becomes powerful not by force, but by inner alignment. Not by controlling others, but by mastering their own impulses. Not by being loud, but by being unshakable. They believe that when you live according to nature, your higher nature, something changes. You begin to move with intention. You begin to speak with restraint. You begin to carry virtue as your posture, not for admiration, but for integrity. And when you live this way long enough, your aura begins to speak louder than your words. People may not understand what they're feeling around you, but they'll describe it in fragments. Calm, grounded, magnetic, different. So today, we're going beyond surface-level signs. We're not talking about charisma or how many followers you have. We're not here to hype you up with vague compliments or spiritual cliches. We're exploring something more subtle, more honest. 6 signs, real, observable, deeply human, that suggest your aura is more powerful than you've realized. These signs are grounded in psychology, in physiology, and in Stoic practice. They won't make you better than others, but they may remind you that you've grown more than you think. So don't listen for applause. Listen inward, and if you find yourself nodding, quietly recognizing pieces of yourself in these signs, then maybe you're not here to chase energy. Maybe you're here to be it. Let's begin. Number 1, people feel drawn to you for reasons they can't explain. You've likely noticed it, quietly, more than once. A stranger starts talking to you in line at the coffee shop. A child reaches out to hold your hand, though they've never seen you before. A friend confides something they swore they'd never tell anyone. And you didn't ask, you didn't prompt. You were just there, but somehow being near you made them feel safe, known. As if your very presence gave them permission to take off the armor they didn't even realize they were wearing. You didn't plan it. You weren't trying to be approachable. In fact, you were probably deep in thought, lost in your own stillness. And yet, people came to you, they always do. This is one of the clearest signs that your aura is powerful, not because you speak louder than others, but because you carry a frequency that cuts through noise, a kind of quiet gravity, gentle but undeniable, one that doesn't seek attention but attracts trust. The truth is, most people walk through the world unseen. They are starved for depth, for presence, for someone who won't flinch at their truth. And when they encounter a person whose energy feels grounded, unshaken by pretense or performance, they recognize something sacred, even if they can't explain it. You become a resting place, a mirror, a soft landing, and not everyone can name why. They just know you're different. What they're feeling is the invisible coherence between your inner and outer world. You don't say one thing and feel another. You don't pretend to be okay when you're not, but you also don't project your chaos onto others. You've learned to carry your storms with grace, and that grace, it radiates far beyond your body. Modern science might not use the word aura, but it affirms what people have sensed for centuries. Research from institutions like the Heart Math Institute shows that the heart emits a measurable electromagnetic field, one that reflects emotional states like calm, anxiety, or appreciation. This field can influence those nearby, especially in emotionally charged environments. It explains why some people feel like sunshine and others feel like static. But for you, it's not just about the energy you emit. It's about what you withhold. You don't crowd conversations. You don't fill every silence. You don't over-explain yourself. You leave space for others to feel themselves again. And that space, in today's world, it's rare, it's healing. The Stoics understood the power of this kind of restraint. They didn't teach charm or persuasion. They taught presence, ataraxia, the tranquility of a soul unshaken by external chaos. Epictetus taught that a wise person must first govern themselves before leading others. And Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that strength lies in consistency, not volume. That's why your presence feels so magnetic. Not because you're trying to lead, but because you're already whole. And wholeness in a fractured world draws others in like a flame in the cold. But this gift doesn't happen by accident. Your aura wasn't always this steady. It was built in silence over time. It was shaped by the moments you chose patience over reaction, stillness over noise, self-respect over approval. It was strengthened every time you honored your intuition, even when it made you the odd one out, and slowly, without even realizing it, your presence became medicine. Now, people feel calmer around you because you've learned how to calm yourself. They feel safe to be honest because you've stopped hiding from your own truth. They feel seen because you've practiced seeing without judgment. This is what it means to walk with a powerful aura. Not to dazzle, not to dominate, but to embody something rare, a peaceful mind, a grounded heart, and a life that speaks without noise. So if you've ever wondered why others open up to you so easily, if you've ever been called easy to talk to, strangely comforting, or wise beyond your years, don't dismiss it, don't wave it off. It's not coincidence, it's not flattery, it's the natural pull of truth. And you've become the kind of person others instinctively trust to carry it. In Stoicism, we don't seek praise for this. We simply continue to practice, to show up as steady, as honest, as free from performance as we can. Not because it makes us powerful in the eyes of others, but because it keeps us aligned with something deeper. So yes, people feel drawn to you, not because you shine louder, but because you remind them of what it feels like to be whole. And when your aura does that, without effort, without ego, that's not just power, that's mastery. Number 2, you're highly intuitive and emotionally attuned. You don't just hear what people say, you feel what they don't. You notice the small silences that fall between words, the hesitation behind a smile, the subtle shift in someone's posture when the conversation turns. While others are focused on what's being said, you're attuned to what's not being said. Not because you're trying to be observant, but because your mind is quiet enough to listen beyond the surface. This isn't guesswork. It's not a party trick. It's intuition, an ancient intelligence that speaks softly but rarely lies. And if your aura is powerful, that intuition is not only present, it's finely tuned. Modern science is beginning to catch up with what the wise have always known. Neuroscience reveals that we are wired with mirror neurons, specialized brain cells that allow us to feel what others feel. This is the root of empathy. And when your emotional system is regulated, when you are internally calm and grounded, these mirror neurons work like radar. You begin to read people, not to judge them, but to understand them. In the philosophy of Stoicism, this isn't considered a mystical gift. It's a form of moral clarity. The Stoics valued discernment, sophrosin, as one of the key pillars of wisdom. It means knowing what belongs to you and what does not, seeing clearly what is within your control and what is not. But it also extends to others, being able to observe without becoming entangled, to feel someone's pain without absorbing it, to recognize a lie, not to confront it, but to choose whether it deserves your energy. This is the gift of a powerful aura that is emotionally attuned. You become like still water. Whatever steps into your field is reflected, gently but truthfully. People feel seen by you, sometimes more than they want to be. And while they may not always feel comfortable, they feel the rarest thing of all, honesty that doesn't harm. You notice when someone's words don't match their eyes. You sense when a room is tense before anyone raises their voice. You feel when someone is quietly hurting behind forced laughter. And most importantly, you respond with presence, not performance. The Stoic sage wouldn't be shocked by this. They would simply nod and say, "Observe, but do not absorb." You can feel deeply, but stay rooted. You can tune in to others without losing yourself. You know when to speak gently and when to say nothing at all, because your energy is your first language, and silence, when anchored in understanding, can be the most compassionate response. Intuition, when shaped by self-mastery, becomes wisdom. It's not reactive, it doesn't seek attention, it listens, and then it chooses deliberately, patiently, wisely. That's why others often tell you you're easy to talk to, or that you just get it, because you're not solving them. You're simply witnessing them. And in a world that constantly asks us to speak, you offer a rare invitation to be felt, not fixed. If you've always noticed more than most, if you've felt waves others never mention, don't brush it off. That sensitivity is not weakness. It's signal. It's a sign that your aura isn't just strong. It's aware, awake, alive to the layers most people never pause to feel. But awareness is a responsibility. It asks you to tend to your own emotions with the same gentleness you extend to others. It asks you to rest when your energy becomes porous. It reminds you that sensing deeply is a gift, but filtering wisely is a skill. So continue to feel, but feel with groundedness. Continue to listen, but not to every noise. And continue to carry your presence as you always have, not as a shield, not as a spotlight, but as a mirror, calm, honest, and whole. Because when your intuition meets inner peace, your presence becomes medicine. Number 3, you shift the emotional energy of a group. Sometimes you walk into a space and people sit up straighter. The tension, barely perceptible a moment before, dissolves ever so slightly. The conversations soften, the energy settles, and no one quite knows why. But you do nothing special. You're not performing. You're not raising your voice, dominating the room, or demanding attention. You're just there, present, rooted, real, and in a world so often filled with frantic energy, your calm becomes contagious. This is not charisma in the traditional sense. It is something more elemental, something less performative and more felt. A shift in the emotional frequency of a space, simply because you entered it with alignment. You may have never realized this consciously, but you've likely seen the patterns. When people argue, they look to you to restore calm. When a room feels heavy, your voice lightens it, without dismissing its depth. When something chaotic happens, others instinctively glance your way. Not for answers, but for anchoring. This is what happens when your aura becomes not just stable, but regulating. From a scientific standpoint, this phenomenon has roots in neuroscience and polyvagal theory. The human nervous system is a social system. We co-regulate, meaning we unconsciously mirror and match the emotional states of those around us. Just like how laughter spreads in a group, so does stress, anxiety, or calm. When your nervous system is well regulated, when your breath is deep, your awareness is centered, and your presence is deliberate, others feel it in their bodies before their minds even catch up. Their breathing slows, their shoulders drop. They don't know why, but they feel more like themselves around you. This is not force, this is frequency. And the most powerful part? You didn't come to fix anyone. You simply arrived as someone who had already done the work of not abandoning yourself. The Stoics, though they never used the language of frequency or nervous systems, knew this truth intimately. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." When the energy around you is chaotic, you don't match it. You don't flinch or overreact. You become the rock, the still point, the one who doesn't absorb the storm, but invites others back into stillness by modeling it, moment by moment. This is a quiet superpower, one that's cultivated, not inherited. You've likely spent years refining your internal state, consciously or unconsciously. You've learned to breathe before speaking, to pause instead of push, to observe instead of react. And now, without trying, you offer others that same permission to slow down, to soften, to return to themselves. But this gift can also feel like weight, because when you hold space so naturally, people come to depend on you to be the stabilizer, the regulator, the anchor. You may notice that others lean on you without asking how you're doing, or that group dynamics shift subtly based on whether you're present or not. This isn't your fault. It's simply a reflection of how rare centeredness truly is, and this is where Stoicism becomes not just helpful, but essential. The Stoic doesn't regulate for others. They regulate for themselves and allow that regulation to become a gift, not a burden. They do not see their emotional presence as a currency to be traded, but as an expression of inner virtue. A Stoic cultivates calm not to please the world, but because a calm mind sees clearly, acts justly, lives wisely. If you shift the energy of a group, it's because you carry within you a harmonic integrity, a frequency of coherence. And coherence is rare in today's world, where most people are pulled in 1,000 directions, trying to be everything for everyone, often losing themselves in the process. But you've made peace with silence. You no longer rush to fill every gap with noise. You speak less but say more. You do less but mean more. You're not interested in performing peace, you are peace. Not because life has been easy for you, but because you've chosen to stand in the center of the storm rather than run from it. And that choice, day after day, has built something people can feel, even if they never put words to it. A strong aura doesn't dominate a room, it harmonizes it. You don't need to lead every conversation or shine the brightest. You simply bring others back to themselves by embodying someone who refuses to leave their own alignment. That's why, in times of uncertainty, others find themselves drawn to you, not because you have all the answers, but because you've made peace with the questions. That's why, when the group begins to fragment, your presence naturally begins to weave people back together. Not with force, but with quiet cohesion. And that's why your absence is often felt more deeply than your words, because the emotional architecture you provide, the space you hold, is not easily replaced. Still, with this influence comes responsibility. You must protect your own center fiercely. You must remember that while you shift rooms, you don't carry them. Your presence can be medicine, but only if you stay nourished yourself. The Stoics would remind you, don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Instead, tend to your own fire consistently, quietly, and with care, because when your inner flame is steady, it gives off warmth that doesn't burn out. So if you've noticed that others breathe easier around you, that rooms settle when you enter, that your presence brings emotional order without effort, know this: your aura is doing more than you realize. You are the tuning fork in a world out of key. You are the equilibrium that doesn't erase conflict, but makes harmony possible. And whether people thank you or not, whether they recognize the shift or only feel it unconsciously, you're offering them something rare, an embodied invitation to come back to themselves. And in doing so, you've already answered the greatest Stoic question, not how can I change the world, but who must I become, so that even in silence I bring the world back to balance. Number 4, you recover quickly from emotional setbacks. Everyone stumbles, everyone breaks at some point. That's not weakness, it's part of being human. But not everyone recovers with grace. Not everyone knows how to stand back up. Quieter, but wiser, softer, yet stronger. And if your aura is truly powerful, there's one thing people will notice about you, even if they can't name it. You don't stay down for long. This doesn't mean you avoid pain. It doesn't mean you pretend to be okay. In fact, you feel deeply. You cry, you hurt, you retreat, but you don't unravel. You don't stay trapped in bitterness, blame, or despair. Instead, something inside you begins, almost instinctively, to reorganize, to rebuild, to choose growth even when it's hard. You recover, not by forgetting the wound, but by choosing not to become it. This resilience is not about suppression, it's about integration. You allow yourself to grieve what must be grieved, but then, with quiet discipline, you step forward. You make your bed. You reply to the message. You breathe deeper. You choose one small thing that reclaims your rhythm. And that's when others begin to notice. You are not held together by circumstance. You are held together by something deeper. An inner architecture that doesn't collapse under weight. There is, in fact, a scientific explanation for this ability. In the field of psychophysiology, it's called heart rate variability recovery, a measurement of how quickly your nervous system returns to baseline after a stressor. The faster you recover, the more adaptive and emotionally healthy you are. People with high heart rate variability aren't less emotional. They are more emotionally agile. They can feel fully without drowning. They can fall without fracturing. They can bend without breaking. And what builds this kind of resilience over time? Emotional regulation, self-awareness, and purpose. In other words, the exact tools the Stoics practiced daily. To the Stoics, emotional setbacks were not signs of failure. They were training grounds, opportunities to practice what they called prohairesis, or rational choice. No one can stop a loss from happening. No one can prevent heartbreak, disappointment, or betrayal. But how we respond, that remains within our power. That is the sacred space between stimulus and response. And in that space, your character is formed. Epictetus, born into slavery and later revered as one of the greatest Stoic minds, taught that we should never waste suffering. Every hardship, he believed, was a forge, a place where the raw metal of your soul could be refined into something more durable. And in that spirit, resilience isn't an accident. It's a daily decision. You don't recover quickly because you're lucky. You recover quickly because you've practiced not abandoning yourself when things fall apart. You've learned to stay, to breathe, to sit in silence until the noise settles, and then to rise, not in haste but with clarity. There's a softness to your strength. People see it in the way you return, not harder, not colder, but wiser. They see it in the way you move on, not by forgetting, but by learning. And they wonder how you do it. They don't know that your strength wasn't born in the light, but in the darkness. It was shaped by nights, when your only task was to keep breathing, by moments when no one clapped for your survival, but you survived anyway. That kind of strength doesn't shout. It whispers. It hums beneath the surface. And people feel it. You're the kind of person who can take a deep blow and still choose love, still choose compassion, still choose to try again. And that choice, that repeated willingness to begin again, is what makes your aura magnetic. Because people trust what is real. And your resilience is real. It's not performative. It's not coated in bravado. It's the result of having met yourself in the fire and choosing to emerge, not unburned, but more true. This doesn't mean you're invincible. There are days when you feel hollow, moments when doubt drips like slow rain on the roof of your soul. But even then, you don't collapse. You retreat, restore, and return, because something in you remembers the way back. The Stoics taught that we should not be afraid of falling, only of staying fallen. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Your setbacks are not detours. They are the path. Each one, a doorway to a new level of clarity, of grace, of conviction. And every time you return stronger, more grounded, more at peace, your aura expands. Because the energy you carry is no longer reactive, it's earned. Others feel safe around you because you've become safe with yourself. This kind of inner recovery, this emotional homecoming, is not for show. You're not trying to prove anything. You're simply honoring what the Stoics called living in accordance with nature. And nature, as they saw it, was not always gentle, but it was always honest. It bends, but does not break. And so do you. If people have told you, you're so calm, if they've asked, how do you stay so grounded? If they've looked at you after you've endured something hard and said, you're still so you. This is why your resilience doesn't make you emotionless. It makes you trustworthy, because you've learned how to hold pain without passing it on. You're not a wall, you're a well, and you've become deep, not from running from your wounds, but from listening to them and healing at the root. So if you've learned to rise without rushing, to feel without drowning, to lose without losing yourself, then your aura isn't just powerful. It's anchored, and the world is better for it. Number 5, you manifest your intentions with uncanny ease. There's something almost mystical about the way things seem to unfold for you. You think of someone, and they message. You set an intention, and opportunities quietly align. You speak about a dream, not boastfully but with calm certainty, and within months it starts to take shape. It's not luck, it's not coincidence, and it's definitely not magic. It's alignment, it's presence, it's the quiet discipline of living with clarity, focus, and emotional coherence, the true undercurrents of manifestation. The word manifestation has, in recent years, been reduced to glittery affirmations and vision boards. But its essence, when understood through both Stoic wisdom and modern psychology, is much more grounded and much more powerful. At its core, manifestation is not about forcing reality to obey your will. It's about creating internal conditions that make you a living match for what you seek. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are moving in the same direction, you become magnetically precise. You stop leaking energy. You stop sending mixed signals. You stop chasing and instead begin attracting by simply becoming the kind of person who is ready for what they want. And that's exactly what people with powerful auras do, often without even realizing it. You carry an energy of decisiveness, not rooted in desperation, but in deep self-knowledge. When you set an intention, you don't just wish, you align. You ask, consciously or not, what would a person who already has this think like, move like, choose like, and then you begin to live that way, step by step, long before results arrive. This, in psychology, is known as embodied cognition, the theory that the body doesn't just express what the mind believes, it shapes it. When you start to behave as though something is true, the mind begins to adjust accordingly. The body leads. The belief follows, and the world, it responds. But this is not the same as control. The Stoics were firm in their view of desire. They warned against attachment to outcomes, not because desire is bad, but because clinging to the result distorts the present. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When someone with a powerful aura desires something, they don't grip it tightly. They don't chase it into exhaustion. Instead, they do the opposite. They focus on who they are becoming in pursuit of it. The goal becomes a compass, not a chain. And in doing so, they create space for the universe, whether we call it nature, providence, or probability, to conspire on their behalf. You've probably experienced this more than once. You made a decision, quietly, firmly, to start something new. You didn't rush to announce it. You just moved. And somehow the right book appeared, the right mentor arrived, the right timing unfolded. And others said, "How do you make it look so effortless?" But they didn't see the hours of quiet inner work, the mental refinement, the shedding of distractions, the thousands of no's that protected one. Sacred yes. This is what manifestation through aura looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not rooted in fantasy. It's the result of energetic clarity, the kind that is built through stillness, not stimulation. You're not someone who sets 50 goals and chases them all at once. You're someone who gets clear on one core intention, Then lets every thought, habit, and interaction reflect that commitment. You radiate direction, and the world responds. The science backs this up. Studies in quantum cognition suggest that our intentions, when sustained over time and paired with action, begin to shape our perception in subtle but powerful ways. We notice what aligns with us. We dismiss what doesn't. We prime our brain to see what we believe, and belief, when backed by behavior, becomes experience. This doesn't mean you never fail. You do, but you don't collapse. You adjust, you reroute, you continue. Because manifestation isn't about perfection. It's about persistence without obsession. You've learned to plant the seed and walk away, not because you're indifferent, but because you trust the process more than the timeline. The Stoics would call this detachment from externals. They would say, pursue virtue, pursue vision, but do not tie your peace to outcomes you cannot control. Let nature unfold as it must. Your only task is to remain in integrity with your role. And so, when your intention is pure, and your effort is consistent, and your energy is clear, things move, not always quickly, not always how you imagined, but undeniably they move, and your aura, it whispers this truth before your results arrive. It says, this person knows who they are, this person walks with alignment, this person is not waiting to feel ready. They are living as if it's already true. That frequency, that coherence between identity and intention is what others feel. They see how life bends toward you, not because you're lucky, but because you are available to receive, not just materially, but spiritually, emotionally, existentially. So if you've noticed that your visions often become realities, that your quiet goals have a way of finding form, that your life reflects your inner work more than your outer hustle, then know this: you're not manipulating reality, you're participating with it. You're not forcing life, you're flowing with it, from a place of stillness, not scarcity. And that, perhaps, is the highest form of manifestation. Not calling things into being through control, but allowing them to find you, because you have become the kind of person who's ready to hold them. This is what it means to manifest with a powerful aura. No fireworks, no theatrics, just quiet alignment, and the steady unfolding of everything that was already meant for you. Number 6. People feel nervous or unexplainably off around you at times. Not every reaction to a powerful aura is admiration. Sometimes people don't know how to be around you. They stumble over their words. They laugh too loudly. They look away when you hold eye contact just a moment too long. You can sense their discomfort, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because something about your presence disrupts the autopilot they've grown used to, and for reasons they can't explain. You unsettle them, not with aggression, not with arrogance, but with truth. You carry yourself in a way that reflects a certain clarity, a certain integrity, and that clarity can act like a mirror. And when some people look into that mirror, they see more of themselves than they were ready to face. This isn't your intention. You're not trying to intimidate. You're not judging anyone. You're just showing up with presence, with stillness, with a kind of self-awareness that radiates through everything you do. And ironically, that very peace can make others feel exposed. What they feel is not you, it's themselves, reflected back. Modern psychology helps explain this. When someone is deeply grounded, emotionally regulated, and energetically coherent, they unconsciously create a contrast. Others sense the gap between how present you are and how scattered they may feel inside. That gap can trigger insecurity, defensiveness, or awkwardness, not because you said anything, but because your presence revealed what they've been avoiding. The Stoics understood this tension. They taught that true virtue is quiet, but undeniable, that a life lived in alignment will inevitably shine light on lives that aren't, and that light, it doesn't always feel like warmth. Sometimes it feels like heat. Epictetus warned that when we begin to live by reason and virtue, not everyone will be comfortable with us. He wrote, "As you proceed on the path of philosophy, you will become a target of criticism, not because you are wrong, but because you remind others of the work they've avoided. This is not a license to feel superior. Quite the opposite. It's a call for compassion. When someone acts off around you, cold, defensive, too polite, or even overly familiar, it's rarely about you. It's about how your energy confronts something in them. Your honesty, your directness, your calm, your unwillingness to engage in gossip or drama, your choice to observe instead of react. These are not aggressive moves, but they break the script that many people unconsciously rely on to feel safe. And when the script breaks, so does their comfort. This is why, in group settings, you might notice people either gravitate toward you deeply or avoid you entirely. You're polarizing without meaning to be, because your presence reveals what people are not yet ready to acknowledge in themselves. And that's okay. It's not your job to be palatable. It's not your task to soften your light, so others feel less threatened. But it is your task to remain rooted in grace. The Stoics believed in emotional sovereignty, that is, the capacity to remain steady in the face of praise or criticism. Whether someone finds you inspiring or intimidating should not sway your character, because a powerful aura is not built on applause. It is built on practice, the quiet, daily cultivation of virtue. Your presence might challenge people, but it also gives them a chance to grow, not by changing them, but by giving them something real to witness, something they can return to when they're ready, and sometimes they do. People who once avoided you come back with softer eyes. They may not say it aloud, but you'll feel it. Thank you for not shrinking. Thank you for staying honest, even when it made others uncomfortable. Thank you for holding your boundaries with grace. Thank you for being someone whose presence asked for more. Not more performance, but more authenticity. You've likely been told you're intense, or you have a strong vibe, or even, I didn't know how to read you at first. And at times, you may have wondered if you were too much, but let me assure you, you're not too much. You're just clear. And clarity, in a world addicted to confusion, can feel like confrontation. That doesn't mean you need to dim your light. It means you need to honor it, because you weren't meant to be tolerated. You were meant to be felt, to create ripples, not by trying, but by being. You've reached a place where your energy does the talking long before your words do. That's not ego, it's embodiment. You don't chase connection, you create resonance, and not everyone will match that frequency, but those who do, they'll stay, they'll grow. And they'll never forget the first time they met someone who challenged them without saying a word. So if people have seemed uneasy around you, if you've noticed reactions that feel confusing or cold or strangely cautious, don't. Internalize it. Recognize it for what it is. Proof that you carry something real, and the real always shakes the artificial. Not with force, but with truth. You are the stillness that unsettles. You are the mirror that doesn't distort. You are the quiet gravity that reminds others. They too can come home to themselves, and that is what makes your aura not only powerful, but transformative. Final reflection: if you've recognized yourself in these signs, even in just one of them, then know this: you are not ordinary. Your presence speaks before you do. Your energy reaches people in ways words never could. You have become, in your own quiet way, a force of balance in an unsteady world. But that force didn't come from noise. It came from silence, from listening to life more than trying to control it, from choosing intention over impulse, stillness over spectacle, and truth, always truth, over convenience. This is what the Stoics knew, that greatness is not loud, it is not a performance, it is the quiet discipline of waking up every day and choosing to live in alignment with what you believe, even when no one sees, even when it would be easier not to. Your aura is not powerful because you are perfect. It is powerful because it reflects a soul that has been refined, in heartbreak, in solitude, in stillness, in fire. And now, it's time to own it. Not with arrogance, but with stewardship. The world does not need more noise. It needs more presence, more groundedness, more people like you. People who shift rooms not by demanding attention, but by radiating alignment. So ask yourself, softly, where am I still dimming my light to protect others' comfort? Where am I still doubting what I already know in my bones? What would change if I no longer apologized for the clarity I carry? You are not here to convince anyone. You are here to become someone who chooses stillness when others rush, someone who chooses truth when others hide, someone who walks with inner coherence so deeply that their life becomes a living invitation for others to return to themselves too. This is what it means to have a powerful aura, not to be feared, not to be worshipped, but to be felt as calm in chaos, as warmth in cold spaces, as clarity in confusion. And when you live this way, rooted, real, deliberate, you don't just change your life. You give others permission to rise into theirs. That, perhaps, is the quiet revolution the Stoics were pointing to all along.